I'm Beverly Enos, and this is Spotlight Georgetown. You can find us over the weekends, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Watch for other times, because quite often we're on at different times, or some of the shows get repeated, and off we go. This is your cable station, so if you would like to learn how to run a camera, or if you know someone that would be a good interview, please let me know, and we'll make sure that that happens. Today we're talking to Mark Headland. He's the general manager of a company called Wildlife Extractors, and we're going to talk about, just for Halloween, we're going to talk about bats. So, yeah. Now, you're not from Georgetown.
No.
Where are you from?
Bridgewater, Mass.
Bridgewater. I found you online because when I was trying to think of a Halloween type theme, I said, well, bats, you know, everybody thinks of that. Are they rodents? Are they birds? What are they?
They're mammals. They're actually mammals.
They're mammals. Okay. What's the average size of a bat?
The bats that we have around here have about a 10-inch wingspan.
Okay, 10 inch.
10 inches, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not so bad.
No.
How many species are there of bats?
About 1,000.
Really?
Yeah. There's actually only more rodents than bats in the world.
Oh, wow. Now, does each area have its own species that's kind of, you know, where they come from originating?
Pretty much, yeah. We have 9 species of bats in Massachusetts, predominantly large browns and little brown bats.
So if you went to another part of the country, they'd have a different bat?
Yes, they would, typically.
Okay.
Now, large brown and big brown bats, or large brown bats, are pretty much nationwide. But
All right.
there are different bats in different parts of the areas, yes.
I mean, you hear stories of they come and they get tangled in your hair, and I remember growing up here, and we're on the lake at dusk, and you'd
Right.
see them coming in and out of the trees, and as little kids, we're all ducking, and we're afraid of the bats.
Right.
Is there a reason to be afraid of them?
Not necessarily. They're pretty harmless, you know. They don't. Bats can carry rabies, but it's not any higher in bats than any other animal. You know, it's about 1 in 500 to 1,000.
And it's not like bats are actually going to come and attack you. Just...
No, they don't bite people or pets.
Okay.
No.
What do they eat instead?
Insects only. The
Okay.
bats that we have.
So just insects.
That's right.
So actually, they're good for us.
That's right. They do eat quite a bit of insects. Small brown bats eat about 1,500 insects per hour. And Boston University estimates that 50,000 large brown bats living inside the Route 128 belt loop eat 14 tons of bugs each season.
14 tons
14
of bugs.
tons, yeah.
So all the mosquitoes we're worried about, the bats will eat them.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay. Now, if you have bats in your house, are you allowed to kill them?
No, they can't be exterminated. They are federally protected because they do keep the insect population in check.
Okay, it's not that we're worried about extinction or anything.
No.
It's
no.
just for
They're-
all the good stuff that they do.
That's right.
How do you get rid of bats?
Well, we have to seal up the house so that they can't get in. They can fit into spaces as small as 1/4 of an inch by 3/4 of an inch. So we seal up all those places. We find out where they're getting in at. We install a one-way door, and they leave overnight to feed, and then they come back and they can't get in.
Really?
Yeah.
So you could get rid of them all in one night?
When they're active, they leave overnight, yes.
Wow. But where do they go?
To other houses.
I don't think that's the answer people want to hear. There is something though, little houses that can be put outside.
Bat houses.
Bat houses to attract the bats.
Right. They will attract bats, but bats won't leave a house to move into a bat house. Female bats actually need the insulation in our homes to leave their babies behind while they feed. Without the insulation, it's not warm enough. So they won't live in a house that's not insulated.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. How many bats are probably in people's homes that we don't even know? Would I know if I had bats in my house?
Maybe, maybe not. It's about 50% chance that you may or may not know.
Okay.
You know, typically it's a small group, 5 to a dozen animals, but there could be hundreds.
Oh, fun. Maybe this wasn't such a good idea. I'm going to scare myself. Do bats live with other animals?
They're commonly found side by side with flying squirrels in Massachusetts.
Really?
It's pretty common, yeah.
I didn't know we had a lot of flying squirrels.
People don't realize that because they're nocturnal, but they are very common. There's actually, at this point, we think that there's more flying squirrels than there are other squirrels in Massachusetts. But
That's
because
weird.
they only come out at night, people don't see them.
And the same with bats. They only come out at night.
Exactly.
Okay, so the two kind of,
They use the same sort of areas on a house, you know, when they get into the same sort of spaces, and we get rid of them the same way.
so we could have two problems.
Exactly.
And what did the flying squirrels eat?
Flying squirrels are like any other squirrels. They eat any sort of nuts, basically, you know,
Okay.
nuts and seeds, but they, you know, being a rodent, they'll eat anything.
Do they store food for winter?
Flying squirrels are extreme hoarders. They will hoard tons and tons of nuts.
Oh, wow. Now, for regular bats, seriously, where did they go when you evict them?
Other people's houses.
That was the serious answer.
Yes.
Okay, really?
Yes.
All right. They don't live like in the woods or...
Not the two bats that typically get into our homes. We do have 9 species. The 2 that typically get into our houses have to live in our houses. So when we evict them from someone's house, they go to someone else's house.
Okay, and that's your company evicts bats and rodents and
Exactly.
things that hang
Yep.
around in your attics and cellars.
That's right. We make them leave.
Okay. When you said the small space that they can get through, it sounds like field mice can get through things like that too.
About the same thing, except they can do it at any height on your house. So, you know, it's like a field mouse would typically enter near the foundation. A bat can enter a small space 30, 40 feet off the ground. So we have to get to all those little spaces and find them.
Now, you see field mice in your basement.
Yes.
You'd never see bats in a basement.
Not typically. Sometimes you can find bats in the basement. If they're entering from a center chimney, getting between the chimney and the flashing, they may come all the way down to the basement by accident, you know.
But they'd prefer something with insulation that they can be nice and warm.
Right. We do have a couple of species of bats on the Cape, you know, that do enter from basement levels, but they're pretty rare.
Okay. What's the largest number of bats that you've seen?
We did a house on Trapello Road in Lexington that had probably 2,500 bats in it.
2,500
Somewhere in
bats.
that area, yeah.
So when you block off the entrance points, would that many bats leave in one night?
Right. We actually had installed many doors. You know, I think there was 24 doors on the house, and it took about 3 days for them to all to leave.
I'm picturing all these little bats in line.
That's
waiting
basically
to
what
fly
happens.
out the door.
That's basically what happens is they get behind in line and they go out one at a time and they're gone.
They really do.
They do.
Oh, that's too funny. Now, if they lived in the house, what types of things would they eat in a house?
Bats don't eat only eat bugs in flight, so they're not eating bugs in your house. So the only time they feed is in flight. They actually catch insects in their wings, kind of like a high player, scoop it up with their wing and eat it from there.
Okay. A lot of misconceptions here.
Yes.
If I did install a bat house, would they probably move into it?
No. I mean, it's 50-50 chance that you'll get bats in it, usually male bats, but again, female bats need the warmth of our insulation to breed.
Okay. How many jobs do you do a season evicting bats, if that's what you call it?
Right. On average, probably 200 as a company.
Okay. And what other types of things do you get rid of?
We're licensed and handle all wildlife in Massachusetts, from rodents to coyotes.
Really?
Yeah.
Get back to their eating habits here. What kind of insects do they eat?
The small brown bat primarily eats insects. They primarily eat mosquitoes. But the large brown bat prefers moths, beetles, and leaf hoppers, basically, those type of animals.
Okay, because so a small brown bat would be how big?
About an 8-inch wingspan, full growth.
Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
all right. Are they dangerous to people?
No, not at all. I mean, the droppings can be dangerous from time to time. If they accumulate in your attic, that can be problematic. There is a disease that's associated with a fungus that grows inside bat droppings called histoplasmosis that causes pretty much every respiratory illness there is. And once breathed in, you can have the infection. But other than that, bats themselves are pretty harmless.
Okay. And do they bite?
Not on purpose.
Not on
And only
purpose.
if you handle them.
Okay. Now, you see movies and things like that of bats in caverns. Do they live in a lot of caverns and places like that too?
Our little brown bats do migrate in this wintertime and sleep underground in mines and things like that. But our large brown bats sleep in our houses. They don't leave where they live.
Okay, so would we find bats in the wintertime in our houses?
Yes, but they should be sleeping. Unless we have like a warm spell, you know, if we hit like 50 degrees After about 45 to 50 degrees, bats will wake back up. They may become dehydrated. There's no food, so they'll go out to drink, and they may get lost and end up inside the living space.
Oh,
which is how people find them mostly.
Okay. Okay. Can they? Oh boy, I already asked that one. We always heard that bats were blind. Are they blind?
No, they actually see quite well. They see just as well as we do, but in black and white. They just prefer to hunt at night because their echolocation system is perfect. You know, they can actually pinpoint animals and insects within the thickness of a human hair, tell the difference between that space. They distinguish between species of insects and select the ones they like in perfect darkness.
And is this just something that they automatically do, or?
It's much like a dolphin. They send out a sound, a clicking sound basically, and it returns echoes, and they read the echoes, and it gives them an image of what's in front of them in their mind.
So that's why if they're wherever they are in the house, if they're up in the attic, they can navigate without bumping into things and having you know that they're there.
Yeah.
Oh, sounds like I need to make an appointment. No.
We give free inspections.
You do give free inspections?
Yes, we do.
So if someone was to call and say, you know, all right, I think I have bats, or I just want to have my attic checked, you'd come and...
We do. We come and take a look at the attic. We'll look at the crawl spaces, get up on the roof, check to see if there's any holes that bats are using, and give you a clear assessment at that point.
And all exterminators basically do the same thing?
No, wildlife control is completely different from exterminating. We don't have a license to use poison for bugs or rodents. We're trappers and excluders, so we can trap and catch squirrels, which is different than an exterminator can. And we can fix your house for bats, which is different than spraying it for bugs.
Okay, so you're not going to be using any sprays, or you're just going to...
No, bats are protected, so we make them leave. Other animals we may capture and remove.
So it's a little more ecologically friendly to the the critters. Okay, this brings up lots more questions. Do they have a tendency to go for older houses more than newer houses?
Actually, we do more work on newer homes than older homes.
Really?
Because the construction is much different nowadays. There's many more different people working on a house. So you have different types of construction coming together, where a roofer leaves room for a siding crew, leaves room for a framing crew, things like that. Instead of where it used to be in the old days, one guy built the house from beginning to end. So there tends to be a lot more areas that they can get into on a newer home.
So the older homes, the areas were closed off as the house was constructed?
And they've been caulked a million times and painted a million times since the day of conception. So these houses, the newer houses, haven't had that, you know, and they're open.
So even people that have newer houses, this is a concern?
Yes, we do new houses mostly. About 90% of our work is on new homes.
Just the idea of having bats in the attic, just kind of...
It's freaky.
Yeah, it is. It kind of creeps everybody out. Do most houses actually have them that just they don't know it?
No, I mean, there's a chance. Obviously, if you have a home in Massachusetts, there's a chance you have bats, but not most homes do. It's my feeling that most homes will eventually get them because they're evicted from house to house to house. I mean, it may take 100 years before a house gets bats, but eventually it probably will have them.
And if, let's say, you have somebody come in and take care of the bats and get rid of them.
Yep.
Would it be likely that they might come back, find a new place to get in?
Not likely. You know, we do give a 5-year warranty. It's 100%. It doesn't matter how they get back. Can we fix it for free? And you know, it usually lasts much longer. We like to go 5 years just because of our extreme weather changes in Massachusetts. So we can come back and look at the house after 5 years and make sure some ice hasn't done any damage and stuff like that.
Is there any way that you can kind of prevent them from getting in the first place?
Only by doing a bat exclusion.
Okay. So you can't just make sure that everything's all sealed up?
Right.
Basically that's what
the
you
same
do.
thing. Yeah, we just come and seal everything up, install one-way doors just to be safe in case there is some, and then just come back and remove them later.
Okay. All right. I think I have all the information that I want to know about bats. Thank you very much, Mark, for coming in. I truly appreciate this.
No problem. Thank you.
And as Halloween comes around, maybe every year we should have bats checked and make sure that we don't have them. I'm Beverly Enos. This is Spotlight Georgetown. Thank you for joining us today. Bye for now.